Good morning, everybody. It is the week of Christmas, and this is the Real Estate Chicas talk show. And today we are going to talk about how to get your home ready to sell. So, a lot of people are thinking about that and wondering what they should do, how to get ready, and what kind of things, in a seller's market versus a buyer's market that they should do in order to get ready. So I'm Jen Olmsted Real Estate Group, and with us today is my agent, Ana.
Hola, hola, hola a todos. Saludos desde México. Bueno, pues sí, vamos a hablar acerca del mercado, de cómo ponernos listos para vender, ¿no? Con los que queramos vender la casa. Hi, everyone. I'm just saying hi to the Spanish speakers out there. We're going to talk, well, like Jen said, about selling homes. So I'm ready. Almost Merry Christmas. Feliz Navidad.
So that's great. She is with us today in Mexico visiting family. And, nice thing about real estate is we can actually do it from anywhere in the world, as you can see, because she still is working, prospecting, and doing what she needs to do to keep her real estate market going. So Today's topic, sellers. People are wondering, is it still a seller's market? Is it becoming a buyer's market? What's going on? They're starting to see a shift or a change. And if you've noticed, our market has calmed down a little bit. Basically, we're seeing that the multiple offers are not going as high, or sometimes there's not multiple offers. But there are some advantages to our consumers. Basically, when you're in a multiple offer situation, if you're not cash or conventional with a large amount down, you're not being considered. So a lot of our buyers have homes to sell, and they need to make an offer contingent on having that home to sell. So what we want to do is we want to meet with you first and discuss what you can do to get your home ready to sell.
So I can do a little translation for the people out there who is doing, who's a Spanish speaker. And bueno, lo que básicamente estamos viendo, lo que vamos a ver es cómo hay situaciones en las que compradores quieres vender tu casa y comprar tu casa al mismo tiempo. Nos ponemos en esa situación, entonces, para poder hacer la transición de una forma fácil, queremos reunirnos contigo, sentarnos y a través de eso ver el proceso.
Your language is so beautiful. I don't know everything that you're saying, but I'm listening, and it's just so pretty that I could sit there and listen to you talk forever. So
like, this doesn't matter what I say.
It's so nice. But yeah, so let's dive right into the seller versus the buyer's market. Basically, right now, this is considered a seller's market. So what does that mean? That means that buyers are willing to overlook a lot of things. If your home needs updating, if there's some major ticket items that need to be done. In a seller's market, a seller does not necessarily have to do those things to appeal to a buyer. Once it becomes a buyer's market, those things are going to be expected to be done prior to listing your home. So having those things ready to go and done ahead of time are going to be really important. I do anticipate we are going to start to see that real shift happen next year. I read an article where they're saying they're going to raise the rates potentially 3 times in 2022, which is a big deal, because if the rates go up, then usually it means that home values come down. So right now we have that nice low rate. That means that you can afford a little bit more. But as soon as buyers find out that the interest rate goes up, now they can't afford as much. So now their budget goes down. And then the homes that are on the market sit a little bit longer. They need to reduce their price. But I don't know if you've noticed, but I've noticed that the home values have started to come down. You are seeing a lot of price changes. We still have low inventory. So the one advantage for sellers right now is there's not a lot out there for buyers to choose from. So they are chomping at the bit for the next home to come on the market. So anybody who's thinking about selling in the spring, I would really encourage you to really think about putting it on in January or February, because I do think that buyers are going to start getting antsy, especially with that rate expected to go up. They're going to want to get locked in and get that nice low 3% rate.
Right. Plus, it takes time to get your house ready, everything to
right.
Sell, right? So and January.
Right, exactly. And then, start to finish, if your home goes under contract right now because of the delays due to COVID and title and things like that, if we were to put your house under contract right now, you would not be looking at a closing until middle of February.
Right.
So, what that means is that for a lot of people, if they have a goal that they want to maybe be in a house by spring, 2 months of that time frame is actually the processing of the house itself, the loan, things like that. We're looking at 60 days, sometimes more on these closings. So realistically, if you tell me that you want to be in a house by April, that means that by February you have to be in a home, and we should already be looking at homes to really learn what your style is, what's on the market, price point, things like that. So for sellers, knowing if you have a goal that you want to be in your next home, or some people, they want to go down south, they want to move to the lake, whatever it is, if you have a goal to have that done, you're going to want to really start thinking about getting that home on the market sooner rather than later.
Right.
And then once that starts to change, days on market right now, we're looking at realistically 30 days or less. A normal market, it's going to be 60 to 90 days that a home sits on the market. So once that shift starts to happen and we lean more towards a buyer's market, your home is going to be on the market for a little bit longer than what we've been seeing. Right now, a buyer sees a house on the market for a couple of weeks and they think, oh my gosh, something's wrong with the house. Just know it's usually the price. But sometimes we're going to give you some tips today that sometimes can be the difference between why your home is selling versus why it isn't. So, those are definitely, I hope that today the takeaway is, some tips and tricks that sellers can do in order to start getting ready. Biggest thing that I can suggest is to call Anna or myself and have us do a market analysis. It doesn't cost anything. Takes about an hour. We do all of our homework up front. We come to your house and then we let you know exactly what to expect or what to do in order to get your home ready to sell. It's basically a plan, so that if we give you those tasks, you can get those done. And then when we come back for photos and for the paperwork, your house is 100% ready to go.
Right. Yeah. Let's be proactive. Even if it's the holidays, we can still prepare and do things backstage to be ready when the time to perform is here.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the major ticket items that come up in inspection. So before we go on to staging and, the pretty things that you can do to your house, the one thing that is really, really important is knowing the things that are wrong with your house and what are things that are going to be showstoppers in terms of, major ticket items for inspection. So what our contracts say is that if there's this one structural issue that is $1,500 or more, the buyer can cancel. The seller does not need to fix it. The seller does not need to give a credit. The buyer literally has the right to say, I don't want the house, and they can get their deposit back because it was flagged in an inspection. Structural items that show up all the time that are flagged as a major. Heating and cooling if they're not working or if they're at the end of life. The roof, if the roof seems to have deterioration. If there's electrical, sometimes there's faulty, not grounded outlets, things like that. All of those things get flagged, and then what happens is we have to go get estimates, and then the buyer can decide to either say, hey, I want a credit, I want this fixed, or I'm going to back out. The seller, like I said, does not need to do any of these things. But once they know of an issue, they then have to disclose it to the next buyer. So a lot of times sellers want to work with buyers and have it done. But sometimes these items are worthwhile just to have fixed or corrected ahead of time. So a lot of times we'll offer or recommend a pre-home inspection with one of the home inspectors that we know and trust. Have them come over, kind of walk through your house, see what would potentially be flagged so that the homeowner can work on that in advance.
So I just want to summarize this. For $1,500, el comprador tiene todo el derecho de retirarse de la propuesta y el vendedor no tiene la necesidad de arreglarlo tampoco. Entonces, ya obviamente hay negociaciones que se pueden hacer durante la transacción, pero bueno, como regla, pues no hay necesidad de hacer algún cambio y tampoco de continuar con la propuesta. Y bueno, llevamos al inspector, caminamos, damos alrededor de tu casa. ciertos tipos de problemas súper claves que son importantes como inspector saber que están 100% bien y son los que vamos a ver a continuación. So, yep. So what are those main like red flags that we gotta see or be aware as a seller to have my house ready, Jen? What would you say?
So for the pre-home inspection, or things that you would want to check out, the number one thing that we are finding flagged is mold in the attic. So mold in the attic, mold in the basement. That's the four-letter word that in real estate we don't like to use, but it's a common thing that we're finding in home inspections. So I think even if you just take a peek, if you haven't been up in your attic, if you haven't opened that hatch, take a peek and make sure that your bathroom vents are venting to the exterior properly. Make sure that your ridge vent and the vents on the sides are breathing. So a lot of times they'll insulate right to the edge so that your attic has no airflow. And no airflow plus moisture equals mold. And now we have an item that a buyer can cancel over.
So how often should we do like those kind of things that seem really easy and can avoid the problem?
Well, if it's done properly the first time, especially like mold in the attic, if you just go up there and you check once that everything is working, then you shouldn't even have to go back up there and do that.
Okay.
But for the like mold in the basement, you're gonna want to basically go down there, make sure you have a dehumidifier. Super important. Moisture will collect in the basement. That's the job of the basement, is to sit there and make sure that moisture stays out, comes in, and breathes through the concrete. So having that dehumidifier is going to really help reduce the amount of moisture down there. Make sure your sump pump is working, things like that. And then check if you look at your concrete walls, look for the efflorescence that's on the outside or that's on the inside. You're going to see looks like salt remnants around the edges. Just keep your eye on that. If that starts to get dark, or if you have dark staining, that usually is a sign of black mold in the basement, which black mold is very, very harmful stuff to your health anyway. So sometimes people don't realize that they've been sitting in a house that has mold and they never feel well. They have headaches, things like that. So, just really take a peek. The basement and the attic are the spaces we tend to go to the least amount of times. Go down there, go up in the attic, take a peek, see what's going on. And really just make sure that everything is okay. Check your drains. Make sure the drains if you have a French drain in your basement, sometimes those just need to be, cleaned out, and make sure that it's all going to the sump pump versus having standing water in your basement. Radon is another thing that is coming up in a lot of inspections. So what they say, radon is basically a gas that's in the soil. It's all around us. But when we are outside, it's able to spread into the air. Well, radon gets stuck in your basement, and it is the number 2 carcinogen after cigarettes that cause lung cancer. So they say that the EPA needs to be 4.0 or higher in order for it to be considered toxic and need a system. And a radon system is usually about $1,200. It's really, really easy. But in our contracts, somebody can cancel over a radon level of 4.0 or higher. So that's an exception to that $1,500 rule. Mold, septic, radon, and well are exceptions to that $1,500. Oh, and pest. A buyer can cancel over those, and they don't need a total $1,500 or more. So, going back to the radon, if you've never had a radon test, you may want to have a radon test done just to make sure that level is safe, not only for your family, but for the next buyer. Like I said, the radon system, all it is a fan, and they put it into the basement. They suck the radon out. It goes into the air, and it doesn't bother you. Pests, check your house, walk around the outside or the inside, see if you have rodents. Now is the time, with it being cold like this, where mice are going to find their way into your home. So look for those little cracks, holes, things like that where they're getting in. Try to seal those up if you can. You can call a pest company to come out and take a peek, and they'll let you know exactly where they're coming in. Look for signs of post beetles. Post beetles are in basements, and a lot of our older homes have that. So if you look up and you're in the basement, you look up, you're going to start to see like a powdery substance. Sometimes it'll land on the floor. A lot of times that can be post beetles. That can also be carpenter ants or even, termites. But termites are going to have tunnels that are going up along the side.
Mhm.
But the best thing to do is if you see something where you think it might be pests, just have a pest company come out. It's not expensive to fix, but when people hear things like carpenter ants, termites, they can also be deal killers. So take a peek, look for that. Also, a lot of people do not like it when they go to a home inspection and find that there is a squirrel infestation in the attic. So if
Oh
you,
my God.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I
And
would,
without paying rent. That's the worst
yeah,
thing.
right. They need to go.
Right.
I will share one crazy story. One time I was showing a foreclosure and a dead raccoon. I pulled the string to let to go into the attic, and a dead raccoon landed on my face.
Oh my God.
So, that was probably the most disgusting thing that has ever happened in my life. And I thought that I had rabies for 6 months, but other than that, we got through it. So they had a raccoon infestation in their attic at some point. Now, granted, it was a foreclosure; it was empty, so probably a lot easier for a raccoon to find its way into the attic. But it wasn't. After sharing that story, it was not the first time that raccoons have found their way into someone's attic, because I heard that story more than once. Not the raccoon, not the dead carcass landing on somebody's face, but that they do.
Help coming out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So really, oh, go ahead.
No, sorry. I think walking around is like once, even like every 6 months, just to see how your house is. That's great. So just for the my Spanish speakers that are there, and doesn't matter where you are, you can always come to New York and live with us. It's an amazing state. Para los problemas estructurales que no entran en los $1,500 están lo que es el mo, el radón, que es el gas que se genera sobre todo donde vivimos en Nueva York, está en el aire, solamente que no lo queremos concentrado en lugares pequeños. Hablamos también de, we said mold, we said radon, we said pest, cualquier animal, todos los roedores, los termitas, etcétera, nada más estar al pendiente de las cosas que hay inusuales en tu casa en algún momento, y en algún momento que veas algo así, llamar a la gente especializada para atacar el problema, y esto puede salvarte de muchísimos dolores de cabeza antes de vender.
Sounds great. So let's move on to staging. So basically, a lot of times people think, oh, I have a lot of clutter and that a buyer can look past my stuff. That's not always the case. Decluttering is such a huge part of getting your home ready to sell. So a lot of times when we do our pre-market evaluation of a home that we're going to put on the market, what we'll do is we will let the seller know exactly what to get rid of. So a lot of times we are getting rid of massive amounts of things in somebody's home, especially because if they've lived there for 20 or 30 years, they've acquired a lot of stuff.
Right.
But for buyers, sometimes they can't look past the stuff. And we will see feedback where it says, there's way too much clutter in the house, maybe too small. Clearly they need more space, so we would need more space. Anna and I actually went and we changed an entire room. So have a house on the market. It was advertised as a 3-bedroom, and everybody was commenting that it was only a 2-bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you think when you went into that house with me? What did you think when you first saw the bedroom situation?
Well, I saw definitely there was no, if I was a buyer, there was no picture for me that could be, I could feel a bed there, because even we don't have, as a buyer, but you don't have the sensitivity of the dimensions. So it's amazing how just like small changes. I saw Jennifer there pulling the Wonder One and just making great things. Just we put a bed in there. We made up a bed, and even like a dresser, right?
Mm-hmm.
The lamp. We gave the whole vibe. We removed all like the personal items. I think that's important because you don't want to see the story of the people who live there. You want to be able to project your own story in that house that you want to buy.
Right. I think it's important too to make it, make it look like what it's supposed to be. So this particular seller decided to make this bedroom their huge closet because it was right next to the master. So what was a third bedroom with a closet, a nice window, had no sense of a bedroom at all. It felt like a closet. And we were seeing that in the feedback. So we actually rolled up our sleeves, put our hair back in ponytails, and we did it ourselves. And with the help of the seller, we told them exactly what we wanted to move. We moved things around. We actually took their dresser furniture and found room for it in the master without the master looking cluttered. So, having that visual perspective that what are buyers going to think is appropriate versus too much. We went in, we did that, made the room completely empty. And like you said, we put a bed in there. We put a twin size bed, a cute little chair, a nice rug, and made it look like this really adorable, bright, sunny, small bedroom. And it's soon after we did that, we actually got an offer on it. So I do believe that the staging of that room made a huge difference. A lot of times too, we'll have empty homes. So, if somebody has a home that they actually already moved out of, if it's a flip, that home being empty it's really hard sometimes for a buyer to visualize the space because a room that's empty sometimes can feel smaller or larger than what it really is. So now they come in there and they're thinking, can I fit a queen size bed in there? Well, without a queen size bed, you can't really visualize what a queen size bed looks like in a bedroom. So having that furniture there already is a huge advantage. And sometimes what we'll do is we'll work with what you have. And then here at Olmsted, we actually have staging furniture. We'll bring our own stuff in and include it in part of our commission package so that if it needs a little bit of life or, if it needs to look more homey, let's just say, we can definitely do that. But it really does make a difference. So sometimes like I said, we'll mix and match. We'll tell the seller, okay, you keep this, get rid of this, and this, and this. Right. And we're going to bring in stuff to make it have a little bit more of a homey feel or a feel that the buyers today are looking for.
Yeah. And it's amazing how just like things, even the temperature, if you go into an empty house and it's cold, probably you will not even think about buying that house because everything doesn't bring you to have the homey feeling.
Yep. A cold, damp house or a house that you walk in and you can see your breath, that's definitely not appealing, especially on a day like today. Today is very cold. So if you're trying to get in from the warm, or if it's a hot summer day and you walk into a house that has no central air and no AC running, you will feel like, maybe this isn't the house for me. If a buyer feels uncomfortable temperature-wise, this is actually a proven fact. If a buyer feels uncomfortable temperature-wise, they are less likely to feel comfortable with purchasing the house. So that's just one of those things. It's a psychology thing. So it's really interesting how that plays a part on the mindset of a buyer. So it's actually a really good point to bring up.
Yeah. Well, so come here for advice.
That's right. That's what we do. So on the outside, so there's some important exterior maintenance of the home because curb appeal is huge. And that's the first thing that a buyer sees. A lot of times buyers will do a drive-by before even asking us to show the house. And if your home is not appealing on the exterior, there's a good chance they're not even going to want to see the inside.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So things that we always suggest, clean up the leaves, clean up the yard, make sure that the grass is cut. Mulch is so simple to do. You just buy some mulch and put it in your flower beds, clean them up the best that you can, put the mulch down, and it kind of gives it that nice fresh look in the front. That's going to make a huge difference to a buyer. Obviously, right now, you're not going to put mulch out there. But when the grass is exposed, if you haven't raked up your leaves yet, you're going to want to do that. Now you might be able to get away with it because the snow is down. But, if it does end up warming up or, once March comes, you're going to want to get those leaves up sooner rather than later. Because it's going to make the house just look better. Trimming back your bushes and things like that. A lot of people have never touched their bushes and then everything looks overgrown from the front. That's really important. Gutters, if your gutters have not been cleaned out and you have trees growing out of them, you're going to want to have those cleaned out. And we actually, if anybody needs a service like that or house washing or, things where they can't do it themselves, yard maintenance, all of that. We have people in our vendor list that we can help get that done for you, because it is really important. Having your house cleaned, washed on the outside does make a huge difference. So some people have never had their house washed and it's white, but now it has a weird hue of brown. Having that clean up, and it's not very expensive. So it's a huge difference. Not expensive to do, but makes a huge difference for the buyers looking at your home.
So now, also in this like time of the year, because you were mentioning the cold, and maybe you cannot take care of the backyard like when it's the summer, but also it gives you an idea because when we go and see the house, we just see that season where we are. So I don't know when if I go in during the summer, I don't know how the house is gonna be during the winter. So now because we have a long winter season, you can experience the safety, of the house. So maybe clean the driveway and put salt and make it safe when people go and buy your house. If probably they don't feel safe coming in, it might be you might probably don't.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and for the safety of the buyers and the agents who are looking at your house, I can't express the importance of shoveling and salting prior to any showing that you have. There is a buyer of mine, and last year, right around this time, there was like all of that snow, and people couldn't get to the driveways, and I had a client who still wanted to see the house, and we had snow pants and boots on, and we trucked through the snow that was almost up to our waist just to get to the door. So, I mean, but liability wise, that's a really big deal. So you're going to want to think about that prior to, having the house listed. But also a lot of times they will put in the contract that the driveway needs to be cleared and access to the home needs to be cleared as part of the deal, especially in these winter deals. Because if you haven't touched the driveway and you moved out, and now we're going to close in February and it's a big solid sheet of ice, there's no way that somebody can get to that. And people aren't going to plow that now. So that's super important. But take a look on the exterior as well. A lot of things that a lot of times people are noticing that their chimney is starting to crumble. So take a peek up at your chimney, see if it needs to be repointed. If there's bricks that are misplaced, that will get flagged as a major in a home inspection, and that chimney will need to be corrected. So that's really important. Take a peek at that. Look at the grading around your house. A lot of times the grading is leading in towards a house, which causes water to go into your basement. It's as simple as, getting extra soil and making sure that that slopes away from the house. So those are definitely some things that you can look at ahead of time. You can look at now. Your deck, how's the condition of your deck? Does it need to be painted? Are there loose boards? Are your stairs? Look at the stairs going into the house. Are they wobbly? Are they, not safe? Those are things that you're going to want to correct, especially before showing a house, for the safety and liability on the seller, but also, that will cause a sense of uncomfortableness right when the buyer walks in. If the stairs aren't secure, then what else is insecure? What else haven't they taken care of?
Yeah, so be proactive of everything. And I walk around, I was just thinking, like, even in my house, if I don't have any plan to sell it right now, but if I just look around just to, when the time comes, to be ready, those things you can really prevent ahead of time.
Absolutely. And, we're more than happy to come out and tell you what to prepare for. Even if you're thinking about selling in 5 years, let's put together a plan on what you can do from now until 5 years from now to get the house ready. A lot of times people think there's things that they need to do that they actually don't need to do in order to sell. So having those, having that conversation, like I said, it doesn't cost anything. I like to consider the real estate industry more of a consulting business and helping you figure out the best approach for selling your home when that time comes. But also the maintaining the house in the meantime is so important. A lot of times too, one thing I want to mention, a lot of sellers have never had their septic cleaned out. I definitely suggest a septic clean out. It's another thing that's very inexpensive, and they can take a peek at your tank and your leach field and make sure that everything is working, because that is a very, very expensive item when it fails. And when it fails inspection, a buyer tends to really freak out. So making sure, just have it pumped, hang on to that receipt, service your furnace. If you haven't had your furnace serviced, have that cleaned out and looked at ahead of time so that you kind of know the life and the health of your furnace.
Right.
Have your chimneys cleaned. I mean, that's something, if you use your wood burning fireplace, please, 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 for the safety of your family, have that chimney cleaned out. I've had more friends and family and people that I care about have chimney fires that have almost, compromised the entire structure because they never had their chimney cleaned out. Extremely worth it, especially if you're using it often. Just give it a little clean. Have the chimney come out. Usually they'll send out coupons in the spring. So, you can have that done and, forget it and have it ready to go in the winter. So definitely have your chimney cleaned out. But the biggest thing is reach out to us. If you have questions, you want to even just know your home value, have us just do a market analysis for you, because it really does help give you an idea of where your house is at, especially now in a seller's market. So I can't guarantee that the numbers will be the same a year from now. In fact, I can guarantee it'll be very different a year from now, 5 years from now, 3 years from now. But we can tell you what your home is worth now, and then we can tell you what you're looking at in terms of projection. So we'd love to help you out with that, let you know what you need to do in order to sell, and kind of get you on that path and get a game plan.
Yeah. Sí, para todos los que quieren vender su casa, llámenos desde ahora. Tenemos tiempo para ponernos, para hacer un plan, para sentarnos con ustedes, aún si tienen proyectado hacerlo a un año o más. Entonces, llámenos, no cuesta nada tener la información, saber de qué estamos hablando y, bueno, sobre eso, pues platicar, ¿verdad? Muchas gracias por los que nos vieron hoy. Y well, I guess this was so interesting.
Yeah, and if anybody joined us late, this will be posted afterwards, so you can go back and watch and get any of the tips and pointers, and just reach out to one of us if you have any questions. But we wish everybody a happy holiday, and we will be back for our final talk show of the year.
The year, yes.
The year. We're going to keep doing every Monday at 9 a.m., but our final 2021 will be next week when we talk about rent versus buying, which I think is a great thing to prep as buyers are starting to set their goals for 2022. If you are thinking of buying a house, we're going to help you come up with a budget and budgeting for housing and why you should buy versus rent. So we will see you next week with our rent versus buying conversation. And Merry Christmas. I hope that you will enjoy Mexico and bring back some sunshine.
I hope so, because it's pretty cold right now here. But
when I go to Mexico, I do not think of that sweater, but that's okay. It's still warmer than it is here.
I bet it is. Yes, I bet it is.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us, and we will see you next Monday at 9.
Bye. Feliz Navidad.
Feliz Navidad.